Story. Am I the a-hole for wearing the joke bikini my friend got me? So, it was my birthday a couple months ago. Um, had a party, got some gifts. My friend Mandy got me a super cute bikini. I liked it, said thanks. She'd have ripped the tags off, but whatever. The moment seemed innocuous at the time, just another birthday gift exchanged between friends. Um, little did I know, this seemingly innocent piece of swimwear would become the catalyst for a series of events that would test the boundaries of our friendship. Weeks passed and the summer heat beckoned me to the community pool. Excited to debut my new bikini, I slipped it on, admiring how it hugged my curves in all the right places. My roommate and I made our way to the pool, the promise of cool water on a scorching day drawing us in. As I dipped into the pool, the refreshing coolness enveloped me. But my moment of bliss was short lived. My roommate's voice cut through the ambient noise of splashing and laughter, her tone a mix of concern and amusement. I followed her gaze, looking down at myself. The realization hit me like a bucket of ice water. The bikini, now wet, had become almost completely transparent. What had seemed like a thoughtful gift now revealed itself as a practical joke, leaving me exposed in more ways than one. The incident at the pool should have been the end of it. A lesson learned, a joke acknowledged. But something in me, a mix of hurt and mischief, decided this story wasn't over yet. When Mandy invited me over for a gathering at her place, I saw an opportunity. The evening progressed, guests slowly trickling out until only Mandy, her boyfriend, and I remained. That's when I suggested we take advantage of her hot tub. As Mandy went inside to fetch drinks, I changed into the now infamous bikini and joined her boyfriend in the bubbling water. His eyes immediately locked onto my chest, the thin, wet fabric leaving little to the imagination. I feigned ignorance, chatting casually as if nothing was amiss. Mandy's return was marked by a sharp intake of breath. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene before her, her boyfriend's barely concealed interest and my apparent nonchalance. As she hesitantly lowered herself into the water, I launched into an enthusiastic monologue about how much I loved the bikini. "Oh my gosh, I wear it everywhere," I gushed, weaving a tapestry of fictional outings. "To the beach, that big party last week, the one with all those guys, they loved it." Mandy's face cycled through a range of emotions: shock, confusion, and finally, a dawning realization. For the next half hour, tension simmered beneath the surface of our conversation, as palpable as the heat of the water surrounding us. As we finally climbed out of the hot tub and went to change, I could feel the weight of the unspoken hanging between us. It wasn't long before Mandy approached me, her voice low and strained. I'm sorry," she began, her words careful and measured. "I thought you'd notice, but it goes kind of see-through." I met her gaze steadily, my voice cool as I replied, "Yeah, I know. Why'd you buy me a fucking see-through bathing suit?" Her explanation came out in a rush. "It's a joke." "Wait, you knew? So you just spent the last 30 minutes flashing my boyfriend on purpose?" My response was simple, delivered with a shrug and a hint of a smile. "I'm just wearing my birthday gift from you." The silence that followed was deafening. Mandy's face was a storm of emotions: anger, embarrassment, betrayal. Her boyfriend, sensing the tension, had wisely made himself scarce. As I gathered my things to leave, the weight of the evening's events settled over me. What had started as a prank had escalated into something more, pushing the boundaries of our friendship and testing the limits of trust and loyalty. Walking home in the cool night air, I replayed the events in my mind. The initial shock at the pool, the calculated decision to wear the bikini to Mandy's, the look on her face when she realized what I'd done. Each moment stacked upon the other, build into a crescendo that left me wondering, am I the a-hole or not? Comment 1, not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Plus, it's not your fault he was blatantly stating at your tits right in front of her. Comment 2, she goes, not the hole. She knew what kind of gift she was giving you. You were just giving her back in a harmless way. No one's going to die from seeing boobs. Now you can all have a laugh about it. Story. Am I the only one that thought it was weird that eights were flossing their teeth before they left for the day with their Valentine's Day? My son burps a lot while eating. I have tried telling him multiple times that it is rude. The dinner table in our home had become a battleground, with my son's incessant burping serving as the primary source of conflict. Night after night, I found myself locked in a seemingly endless struggle to instill proper manners in my teenage son, Jake. Jake, please, I plead, my fork poised midair as another loud belch echoed across the table. Slow down, you're swallowing air with your food. But my words fell on deaf ears. Jake would simply shrug, a mischievous glint in his eye as he shoveled another forkful into his mouth, inevitably followed by another thunderous burp. My wife, Sarah, ever the peacekeeper, would immediately jump to his defense. Oh, leave him be, she'd say, waving a dismissive hand. That's just the way he is. It's not his fault. But I knew better. I'd seen Jake control himself when properly motivated, usually when I threatened to take away his phone or car privileges. It wasn't a matter of inability, it was a choice. As Jake grew older, my concerns deepened. How would he fare in the real world where such behavior wouldn't be tolerated? I tried to explain the social implications of his actions, but my words seemed to bounce off an invisible barrier of teenage indifference. Then came the night of Jake's big date. He had been seeing Melissa for a few months, and her parents were finally in town. It was to be a formal affair at Lachine, the fanciest restaurant in our small city. As Jake adjusted his tie before leaving, I offered one last piece of advice. Remember your manners tonight, son, I said, my tone serious. First impressions matter. Jake rolled his eyes and headed out the door, leaving me with a sinking feeling in my stomach. Hours later, the front door slammed shut, followed by the sound of rapid footsteps up the stairs. Sarah and I exchanged worried glances before she went to investigate. I could hear muffled voices from upstairs, Jake's trembling with emotion, Sarah's soft and soothing. Curiosity got the better of me, and I found myself outside Jake's room, eavesdropping on their conversation. Jake's voice was thick with unshed tears as he recounted the evening's events. It was horrible, Mom, he choked out. I couldn't stop burping. Melissa's parents looked disgusted, and Melissa, she tore me apart on the way home, said I embarrassed her, that I behaved like a jackass in front of her family. A small chuckle escaped me before I could stifle it. Sarah's head whipped around, her eyes narrowing as she caught sight of me in the doorway. What's so funny? She demanded, her voice sharp. I stepped into the room, meeting Jake's red-rimmed eyes. I hate to say I told you so, I began, but I've tried dozens, if not hundreds of times to teach you proper table manners. You rejected every lesson, and your mother here protected you at every turn. I gestured to Sarah, who had the grace to look slightly abashed. Now you're a grown man, and you had to learn the hard way. Jake's face crumpled, a mix of anger and hurt flashing in his eyes. You're laughing at me? He accused, his voice cracking. I just had the worst night of my life, and you think it's funny? Sarah wrapped a protective arm around Jake's shoulders, leveling a glare at me. He's right, she said coldly. This isn't funny. Melissa overreacted, and you're being cruel. I felt a twinge of guilt at their reactions, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this harsh lesson was exactly what Jake needed. Years of gentle guidance and stern warnings had failed. Perhaps this public humiliation would succeed where I had not. As I turned to leave the room, the weight of their disapproval heavy on my shoulders, I found myself grappling with a familiar question, one that had haunted me throughout Jake's tumultuous teenage years. Am I the whole or not? Comment one, not the a hole. OP, to vote this way, I'm taking a leap of faith that you and his doctor have eliminated the possibility that your son has a medical issue, and I'm assuming he's just an immature and poorly socialized young man. Sadly, I have known a few young men who think they can belch and fart around girlfriends and their parents, same as they do with frat brothers. Still, consider apologizing for laughing at his situation and introduce him to the Art of Manliness website. Comment two, not the a-hole. I also laughed at this. How old is your son? Doesn't matter either way. There are times for this behavior. Dinner at a restaurant is not one of those times. Girlfriend did not overreact. Hopefully he learns a valuable lesson from this. Story AM, I the hole for how I fought my boyfriend's medical bill going too far. My boyfriend had to go to the ER after an accident, and he got a truly ridiculous bill back. I offered to fight the bill for her because I've done it before, and he said, sure. Little did I know that my determination to save us from financial ruin would lead to a rift in our relationship. The bill was staggering, $5,000 after insurance. That kind of unexpected expense would have decimated our holiday plans and put a significant strain on our finances. I knew I had to pull out all the stops to get this bill reduced. I started by having my boyfriend authorize me to handle his bill and access his medical records. Armed with this permission, I dove headfirst into the bureaucratic nightmare that is the American healthcare system. I requested an itemized bill and meticulously compared each charge to fair market prices, my blood boiling as I realized we were being charged 7 times the national average for many services. My first attempts at resolution were frustratingly futile. Calls to the billing department led nowhere, with representatives insisting they only collected bills and couldn't dispute them. I found myself bouncing around a labyrinthine call center for hours, each transfer taking me further from a resolution. Realizing that traditional channels were getting me nowhere, I decided to change tactics. I spent hours scouring Google and LinkedIn, compiling a list of email addresses for the hospital's board of directors, upper management, and even their investors. This would be my new battlefield. Every day, I'd send out a few carefully crafted emails, slowly working my way up the chain of command. With each message, my tone grew more assertive, my arguments more detailed. I laid out in painstaking detail how they had overcharged my client, how their staff had failed to address the issue, and how their practices were ethically questionable at best. As I escalated my campaign, I found myself writing to director-level staff, CCing the entire board and several outside investors. My emails demanded written justification for their exorbitant pricing and sternly outlined the failures I'd encountered at every level of their organization. To my surprise and elation, my aggressive tactics paid off. After weeks of persistent emailing, they reduced the bill from $5,000 to a mere $26. I was ecstatic, ready to celebrate our unexpected windfall. When I broke the news to my boyfriend, his initial reaction was one of unbridled joy. But he hugged me tightly, calling me a Christmas miracle and marveling at how I'd saved our holiday plans. But his excitement quickly turned to concern as he asked about my methods. I handed him my phone, thinking he'd be impressed by my tenacity. Instead, as he scrolled through the dozens of increasingly stern emails I'd sent, his face fell. The color drained from his cheeks as he realized the extent of my campaign. "You went way too far," he said, his voice a mix of disbelief and disappointment. "I was expecting you to dispute through their billing department or something normal and reasonable. Not this. You basically stalked and harassed an entire hospital for weeks." His words stung like a slap to the face. I felt my own anger rising, frustrated that he couldn't see the incredible result I'd achieved. "I just saved us $5,000, I retorted, my voice rising. "I made it possible for us to have a nice Christmas and put some money aside, and you're mad at me because I was a bit of a hard ass?" But my boyfriend was unmoved. "I authorize you to dispute a bill," he said, his tone growing colder. "Not to threaten and harass an entire hospital. This isn't okay." As we stood there, both furious and at an impasse, I found myself grappling with the consequences of my actions. I had achieved my goal, saved us from financial hardship, but at what cost to my relationship? The question that had driven my entire crusade now took on a new personal dimension. Am I the a-hole or not? Comment 1, you are a friggin' rock star and should be a damn professional advocate for those who get ripped off in healthcare like this. Your boyfriend is so unappreciative and is clearly clueless on how diligent you need to be to challenge an erroneous bill. When the hospital, doctors, and insurance companies are unwilling to help you resolve their errors, what else are you supposed to do? So many people just quit and either pay the massive bill or go into debt. Tell your boyfriend this is the only Christmas gift you're giving him, clearly not the a-hole. Comment 2, not the whole. Hospital billing is intentionally screwed up and difficult to address issues. When I gave birth to my kids 16 years ago, they double billed everything and it took almost a year to get it all straightened out. I pretty much had to schedule hours into my weekly schedule to deal with contesting collections, getting it sent back to billing, dealing with some other person in billing, and etc. With a newborn through on you, and while I was also working full time, it was an additional part-time job to fix the damn hospital bill. What you had to do is not abnormal.